I then improv. Let's do it, man.
I love it. So good to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the program today. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. It's a pleasure.
So let's begin our journey into your life by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing so much for all of us. How did you get through that coronavirus era, and how has it influenced the way that you live today?
Drugs. That was the only way. No, I'm kidding. I actually ended up getting. I stopped drinking as as a byproduct of it.
Yeah.
Um, well, drugs is kind of it's a halfway joke. I was drinking just as much as a lot of other people. Alcohol sales during the COVID was massive.
Yeah.
Getting through COVID, one of the realities is I think it was 2021. I'd befriended some hoteliers out in Costa Rica back December 2017, and so maintained a friendship with them. All right, so here's how things kind of shook out. Like just quick overview. I go through a breakup. There's COVID stress. There's work stress. I'm in therapy, and I'm like, yeah, something has to give, but like faster. I'm not getting there. But so these hoteliers, I'd gone out and hung with them. I worked at their hotel for a bit. And I figured, you know what? These are the most emotionally intelligent and like business savvy dudes that I know. So what if I just like go out, reset, volunteer at the hotel and all that stuff, and ended up doing that for a 2 month period during COVID. And so that sort of operated as this reset, just put everything like work, life here in the States on pause. And I was in Columbus, Ohio at the time. So that largely was really one of the tools that I was blessed to be able to employ to kind of just get out of my own waking life, which I think everybody was kind of stuck in their own little, bubble going through it. So there's an answer for you.
It is a great answer. And I'm curious, I hear so many stories about what people did during that time period. It almost seems like the Great Awakening. There was a levels of us that knew things needed to be changed, or that we needed to look into the mirror, or that we had to do these proverbial existential things, but we needed a reason to do it. And I think living through that kind of gave people a pause, a moment to say, why are we here? What's going on?
I very much agree.
I
At
mean,
least if you're one that can listen to either your own inner thoughts or the environment around you, and you know
yeah.
take it in stride. Not everybody chooses to do that, which is fine, but yeah.
So you got there's so much that's going on as far as your titles are concerned, an interesting ride professionally. And I want to know this. If I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, you walk in and they want to know what you do for a living, how do you answer those kids?
Okay, I did do that actually recently, early in the year. But okay, so I'm a marketing coach, actor, and voice artist. So we'll stick to just those three.
Yeah.
The 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 whole marketing coaching thing gets just a touch more wild because I chose to call my practice Anarchy for a Day. Anarchy, in my mind, in my vernacular, it's a tool to inspire innovation. Anarchy, I think, like dictionary has it as like just destroy everything and cause complete and utter chaos.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, but we can think about and re-engineer words that we already commonly have a definition for. So if we apply a little bit of anarchy more tactfully in certain circumstances, that's how we can set ourselves apart, perhaps by finding our own blue ocean, somehow distinguishing ourselves from the others. So, Anarchy for a Day, that's the marketing coaching practice. Now, I bring that to literally a second grade career day at a Boulder school, and great, cool school, all that, great teachers, all that staff, faculty, easy. So I I ended up like sitting down with everybody, and I said, all right, well, to the teacher, what kind of um uh you know what kind of business would you have if you were to start your own business? And the teacher's like, well, I'd probably do a tutoring business. Okay, well, naturally, you're an individual who's a professional mind crafting, the young minds. That's the teacher's goal. So, all right, I said, wonderful. Um, if we're looking at the tutor, then the idea is all right, well, there's a ton of different tutors inevitably. So, what is it that distinguishes you from the others? That was really the focus of that conversation. How do you separate yourself from others? And one of the kids just raises his hands. He's like, what? Oh, I forget what he said, but it was something like, uh, like, what does a tutor mean? And I'm like, that's an interesting question. So I looked over at the teacher and she's like, don't, Jimmy. I know where you're going with this, and don't do it. And he's like, he essentially was like, it's got toot in it, and he just looked over at his buddy and just started like cackling in laughter. So I can't tell you that career day for second graders was a terribly successful business endeavor for me, but it was entertaining.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So look, when you were in that position, you were in that room. What did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream gig?
Oh, well, back in second grade, there were really two different avenues that I was truly wanting to explore back then. One, um, for whatever reason, I think it kind of stemmed from a love of ancient Egypt and all things mummies and all that good stuff. The whole paleontology thing that was truly fascinating to me. Plus, my parents and everybody was like, "Oh my god, that's such a big word for such a tiny dude."
Yeah.
Then, to really just flip that one on its head, the guy that hung off the side of a dump truck, the garbage truck, for some reason, that was also a very alluring uh, thing. I didn't want to handle garbage. I just like the idea of hanging off the side of trucks.
You know, my
What
my
about you? Where
I wanted to be a cop. I love Chips. I grew up watching it, and I was like, I can be there with Poncherelli. I can get involved with that. And then that show Cops came on Fox when I was a teenager, and I was like, I don't know, man. That's
starting
not the
to
version I saw when I was growing up.
starting
I
to
think
second guess this one.
I'm gonna bow out of law enforcement. But yeah, it's wild. But yeah, that was kind of the dream. I'm curious. Um, where were you born and raised?
Chicago,
Okay,
the
so you're
the general burbs of Chicago.
okay. So what were the movies? What were the things that were swaying you to get into acting and to pursue that part of your life?
I didn't actually act on that notion, that the simple idea of, okay, well, what if I put myself in front of the camera? I didn't actually do anything about that until like very, very early this year. So that's 33 years into my life that I'm like, huh, why not?
Yeah.
So all that's to say, I had this lingering consideration in the back of my mind for really longer than anything else. But the movies that I grew up with movies
Yeah.
like James Bond, Indiana Jones, I mean, Home Alone, you name it. Like a lot of the classics, like Blues Brothers. If we're dipping into like a little bit of like, all right, this is actually Chicago, and so like some of the old Batman films where Gotham is filmed in Chicago. Um, I like the Dark Knight with like Heath Ledger as Joker, like that. Just heck, I even watched The Wolf of Wall Street again last night, and I it's just that's the epitome of the kind of movie that I would love to be in, where it's just like no one's aiming for an Oscar here, but
Right.
these are just great characters that they brought into frame.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, they totally did.
Yeah,
So what were the early seeds that were planted into you that's become marketing, acting, voiceover artists? What were the things, or because I mean a lot of our psyches developed by three. What were the things that you were absorbing that eventually evolved for you?
that's a really interesting way of wording that, and I'll give you sort of the perspective to say, all right, I was adopted at birth.
Okay.
What that can lead to is a general lack of unknowing in the individual. So, for a large part of my childhood, even into some of my adulthood, there's a bit of confusion about, what is it that I'm really intrigued by? What do I want to do? So, to really answer your question, a lot of like, all right, how did I really find myself out? I just listen to what people said like, oh wow, well Kyle's kind of good at X, Y, and Z. So it began with like drawing, quite literally. Is just I was drawing on literally everything. Like it was like first or second grade, like art class. I would draw these really think like hot rod type, like the stylized like fire and all that stuff. Draw it on like all my homework and all that stuff. And I had an art teacher that found it to be very interesting that that was my general output. So she calls up my mom one day and she's like, yeah, so we Kyle's drawing a lot of fire. My mom's like, uh-huh. Teacher says, how are things at home? Are you good? My mom's like, yeah. She's like, okay, well, it's really disturbing how much fire Kyle is seemingly producing here. And my mom said, oh, we don't think it's disturbing. He's just really good at it.
Yeah.
And so that was just like one of those moments. It's like, all right, that led me to study graphic design. And graphic design is sort of the creatives, entry point to the world of marketing. And then I did sales for the Chicago Trolley Company, where you're literally on the street corners. You have to solicit anybody and everybody on the street. And, after an entire day of talking, the voice gets a little raspy, it gets lower and lower and all that stuff. And, there were a number of people that are like, dude, you got a radio voice, face for radio.
Yeah.
So, so that kind of thing happened. And, I'm like, all right, well, enough people have told me these things consistently enough that there must be some level of truth. So what if I actually more legitimately explore these avenues?
So what's been kind of your career evolution? Did you get into radio early on?
No, there was no radio. I probably should have. I think I probably would have had a heck of a lot more fun doing it than just sitting behind a computer and marketing stuff. Like
Yeah.
the branding component of marketing is where I find the most joy, but that's
Yeah.
that's only a small percentage of the work that actually ends up getting done. Um, so no, I think radio probably would have been a fantastic endeavor that may have gotten me into this kind of performative side of things a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
But here we are.
That's it. So heroes, who's been kind of inspirational forces for you in your career that's evolved you to where you are today?
I don't use the word hero just
Okay.
because it's not that I don't like the word. It's like hero and the word brave are two uh, words that I think are somewhat misused
Uh-huh.
a lot. Not to discount your line of questioning, but
Sure. Sure.
um, I would refer to like heroes for me personally are mentors,
Yeah.
individuals that I've found to be, achieving some level of success. So, okay, well, I might as well listen to them, regardless of how harsh their feedback is going to be. So, there have been a number of mentors that I've acquired along the way. Um, I know that's easier said than done in some cases, but these individuals have done a lot for crafting, the individual that I am. But we harken back to the very foundation of my life. This is adoption. I wake up every single morning. I say two things literally to kick off my days. One, I'm ready to work. And two, thank you to all of my parents for making the decisions that they did to adopt me. Because without that adoption, the experiences, the travel, the food, everything that I have had the opportunity to experience, to indulge in, thanks to the Asperger family, that would not have been the case. And those are now tools that are very critical to my life, to my career, to the characters that I can bring to the camera. So, yeah,
Yeah.
parents, mentors, that's the
Yeah.
easy answer right there.
Sure. So let me ask you this. As you embark on this career in acting, being an actor, people have this vision of what it's going to be like, and I'm sure you did. You think you want to do this, and then you're actually doing it. What's been the difference between the dream and the reality of actually doing it and being in there and doing it?
Stupidly, I thought it was going to be easy because you look at actors and you think that doesn't seem very hard. It's because they're good actors. They make it see it's this is simply a moment in time. And you ask an actor what they did to arrive there, chances are they're probably not even going to have a great answer.
Yeah.
Acting, you lose yourself in whatever that moment is. And so, all right, I'm on set of a biopic out here at Red Rocks, and I meet a great actress, now friend of mine, and she's like, "Oh, well, I'm in acting class," and stupidly, I'm like, "I don't know if I really need acting class. I want to just punch old Kyle in the face right there and just be like, dude, go. Like,
Yeah.
you need this." And the moment I went, I started immediately realizing, oh boy, there's a whole heck of a lot more to this than I was previously apparently led to believe. So, there's no glitz and glam yet. I have not found that wild success. But what I've seen too is that there is, there are like the stars out there, the ones that you always hear about, and then there are the working actors, the ones that may not be heard about nearly as much, but there's still people that are getting out working on projects. They're helping to tell stories. They're getting commercials out there. There may not be as much of a claim to fame in there, but that's how a lot of people are making their livings too. So there are two sides to it outside of the whole starving artist thing, which there is that. But in order to succeed, you got to be flexible. You got to be able to like literally rally at a moment's notice. Um, you got to be cool with rejection, like
Yeah.
that. Those three components right there. I think that's probably majority reason why the vast majority of people don't find success as an actor is because some manner of those three components is just not working in their favor, and it's not easy to be able to deal with those or have that flexibility if you have kids or a significant other or something like a job. It ain't easy.
Yeah. So when you look at the arc of your career, there's a lot of what you're doing that has that entrepreneurial mindset.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest risk that you've taken so far?
Mm-hmm. Probably just not finding a full-time job earlier on in my career. I mean, I immediately out of college, I went full-time. It was like design agency, laid off in 2.5 months. Bath and Body Works, fired. Victoria's Secret, quick contract job. Um, Abbott Nutrition, they make, Pedialyte and all that stuff. So it was a very rough sort of start. And then I ended up at a design agency for about a year and a half. I knew that like I needed to learn more. And I figured, all right, working for myself is probably going to be the fastest way to get there. But if we're talking about risk, it was that moment that I essentially decided I'm going to work for myself, as opposed to, okay, maybe this design agency is not for me. Maybe I can go find another job somewhere else. Um, that moment represented a significant shift in the way that I chose to lead my life.
So we all as professionals, I think, if especially in an entrepreneurial mindset, we always have these dreams of things that we want to do. Right now on this day, if something fell in your lap, a dream gig, whether it's an acting gig or something else, what would be a dream gig that you would love to go for right now?
Love to get the shit kicked out of me by Seagal.
That's a perfect answer, dude.
I'm so not, no, do not
Right.
quote me on that. I know
No,
we
I
are on a
won't.
recorded line too.
No,
I've
it's
heard
tongue in
nothing
cheek. I
but
get it.
awful things about that man.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to like call this is I'm parroting what everybody else is saying.
Yeah.
Uh, no, one of the I mean, okay, not a far stone's throw here. Hallmark movie, man.
Yeah.
Like they're lovably hateable. And I just wrapped a feature called Big Ass Monsters. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
The reality, one of the reasons I bring up the Wolf of Wall Street, it's a very rewatchable movie. That is the essence of what I want to do is I want to be in the stuff that's rewatchable. It means it's fun, it
Yeah.
means it's relatable. People can see themselves in, whatever the characters are. Awesome. I'm not like aiming for Oscars here.
Yeah.
There's no part of me that ever really cared about awards or anything like that because I've never gotten awards for anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's a lot that you can do outside of that, I believe.
My wife went up to Evanston about 3 years ago, and they were filming a Hallmark movie up there, and she was talking about
Okay.
it. Yeah, and in fact, in Kansas City, we had the big Chiefs thing, the movie that they made a few years ago. Hallmark came out, and
Hmm.
that's been doing. So yeah, no, those are. And my wife has gotten to a point in her life where she's like, I just want to watch those movies because I'm tired of the news and the darkness and just feeling
Yeah.
heavy. And it's lighthearted. It's a good ending. Let's do it.
It's like and you're gonna laugh
Yeah.
too, maybe for the wrong reason, I don't know, but laughter to me, it's one, like, all right, you asked how I got through COVID. Laughter.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
If nothing else, that was one of the biggest tools, and always will be in my life. Laughter is so key.
So doing what you're doing, getting into acting and looking at gigs and orchestrating all of this is not an easy thing to do. What gets you up every day? When that alarm clock goes off, what is the motivation for you to not only do a good job, but to protect and harvest your soul?
What is the motivation? The motivation, I believe, for me, because I don't really personally feel like I've done a tremendous job of blending in, with what everybody else is doing. And, acting is one of those things where, whatever weird you bring, like, we need that. So it's weirdly like it's a very accepting medium, is the suggestion there. Um, the motivation, I mean, okay, let's push past financial. The A lot of it is really just like, I have spent nearly a decade working for myself. There are so many frustrations that come with that. The trials, tribulations, the partnerships, the just about everything. And I'm not saying that acting is really any different. There are so many rejections, so much opportunity for failure. It's very little different. I've simply just become very resilient to that side of life. Um, I just, I don't, I like doing it. That's it. I feel like I'm accepted. It's a great way to become creatively invigorated by partaking in another individual's story. And I have way less responsibility.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talked about tapping into the weird. I remember interviewing Josh Mallerman. He wrote Bird Box.
Okay.
And he was talking about the way he felt at the red carpet premiere with Sandra Bullock and all of those actors. And
Mm-hmm.
he was in there, he was in the soup, and he was terrified. And somebody gave him the advice and said, "You're a freak just like all of them." And there was a
Mm-hmm.
part of him that just totally calmed down, right?
Oh yeah, that makes
Because you get in that imposter syndrome and you're like, oh
yeah.
my God, but you're in that world. You just got to be you, right?
That's it. And that's something that I staunchly push for. Everything that Anarchy for a Day represents is, okay, what is it that is innately yours, whether on an individual or a business basis? It's that level of uniqueness is what we need to highlight, because society, and corporate especially, seeks to just destroy everything unique and just say we need cheap.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. That's how. It's just an awful, awful way of being. It's secure as all get out. So, congratulations to the people with a good 401k. But
Yeah. I get it. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You walk into that school that's career day and you're 13 years old and you're sitting there and you have a big book in your hands and it's your life so far. And you hand it over and say, "This is what's happened so far." Would that young version of you believe it?
so the so it has all of my, like, current, like,
Yeah.
33 years of life packed
Yeah.
into this.
Yeah. It's your life.
I don't think I would probably believe it. I have a very realistic sort of sense of things. It's like, none of this was achieved overnight. I've put a lot of work into this. I've studied the craft, and that's it. You go work, you study, and then you can build toward whatever goal. The people that are like, it happened out of the blue. No, it didn't. You worked for it. You manifested it. These things don't just happen to any random people, especially in the world of acting. There has to be something that you did that somebody saw and stood out and piqued their interest. So I think I would probably read it and think, like, wow, a lot of that's depressing. Um, some early mornings in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, here we go.
That's it. Would you give any advice?
To 13-year-old me,
Yeah.
I don't quite know. I will say, when I first began therapy, a lot of like the therapeutic focus for me was really just like on the inner child. And because I was working to really achieve conversation with that inner child so much, I had a dream a number of years back. And there was a little kid that was like just facing away from me. And I remember feeling this very sort of like parental responsibility to like almost care for this dude. And I put a hand on his shoulder, and he turns around and it's like baby Kyle. And that was the first time that I had ever seen baby Kyle in a dream. And it wasn't really advice, so to speak. It was just mostly like, you're going to go through stuff and you're in for a ride. So it just kind of strap in, you know, like that's really all I said. I don't know if I have any tremendous advice that I would give myself, um, other than it takes practice. All of it does.
Hmm. So, of everything that you've accomplished and evolved to at this point in your life, what are you the happiest about?
Oh God, that's the worst question for a modest guy from Chicago. Uh, what am I? Say that again. I
What are you
was
the happiest about? I don't want to do the pride. What are you the proudest of? Because pride can be ugly, but it's more about just what are you the happiest that you've essentially worked for and that you've gotten to this point in your life?
well. It's the moments where I know that I've like connected with with an individual on a deeper level, and the individuals that go out of their way to make me aware of that. That like I'm not going to say it's vindication, but it like I'll put it this way. A professional contact from my marketing days, met him in like a chamber of commerce. We kind of reconnected this past year, and we're like, all right, well, instead of getting coffee, let's just go to the gym. I don't do that with everybody, but for him, I'm like, yeah, why not? You're an affable fella. And so, we get there, and I'm like, all right, well, how do you want to, do this? He's like, I'm just on you, man. And so I'm like, great, it's laps, traps, and shoulders day. It's gonna be a fun one. And so I end up, just walking him through. Well, here's how I would do this. This is why, and how it specifically relates to me. So more or less, I just became a trainer in that exact moment. I have, you know, studied how to lift weights and tried to figure out what works and what doesn't and all that stuff. And a couple months go by, and he's like, I just bought a gym membership, man. I hope to see you there. It is that tiny, tiny little bit. It doesn't even have to be film, doesn't have to be marketing. It's just as long as I know that I have a positive impact on someone,
Yeah,
and maybe that was the one guy. Maybe that's it. Maybe I could just die happy now.
that's it. What a great answer. So let me ask you
Yeah.
this, Kyle. Everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, fans, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Uh, oh God, I don't like that question either.
Okay.
Well, my modesty, I don't try to think of what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am. Like, I know that the gay community loves me, which is, sorry, guys, I'm not, I got nothing for you.
yeah.
The, I don't know. The honest answer is, I think there's probably stuff that I'm missing. Like, people just haven't told me. But
Yeah.
look, here's the deal. If people still want me to be like the lead in their film, then there's more that I'm not privy to. And part of me is like, don't even tell me. If you like it, you like it. I'm gonna just keep doing my thing and stuff like that. And if that works, people jive out with it. Fine. That's it.
That's the answer. So let me ask you this. As an adventurous spirit, if you could get into a time machine and go back in human history and see one event with your own eyes, it won't create a tear in time. You just get to witness it unfold. What event in human history would you love to have seen happen?
Well, it sure as hell ain't anything in my timeline. I mean, I'd probably go back and experience like a wartime or something like that. Like, World War II, Vietnam, like put myself like deep into that, like really understand the complete converse of what this waking life is. Because I'm just a, and maybe this is like what makes actors kind of interesting is we have this innate curiosity about like, okay, what is it like to be somebody else?
Yeah.
And I've never seen war. I have never seen complete and utter, I don't even, hatred, violence, all that stuff. I
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know. It's a weird answer, but I think there's a lot of truth to that one.
Yeah, no, I dig it. So if anybody wants to get involved with Anarchy for a day, dive into your good work, any of the good business in your world, where do they go?
Anarchy4aday.com, and that's FOR, not the number four. Give me a follow on Instagram, Facebook. Insta is just Kyle Asperger 301, and that's Asperger like the syndrome. And that's the other side is half the fans are probably Aspies too, and they don't realize I don't have it. Also, sorry, y'all. The yeah, I don't just give me a follow, and if you want to kick up conversation, please, you know, hit me with that like immediately. I get so many just like hi.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh, no.
Like talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm human. I will respond if you give me something meaty that I can respond to.
Yeah, totally. What do you got? I will put all those links in the show notes. Kyle, thank you, man. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful holiday season, man.
Joe, likewise. It was a real pleasure. Kansas City to Denver. Love it.
Beautiful. Thank you, man.